All right, strap in everyone for today's deep dive.
Yeah, buckle up.
We're going down a rabbit hole that blends real-world tech with a conspiracy theory that's,
Well, I'll just say it's out there.
it's pretty wild. We're talking about drones, unexplained aerial phenomena, and Project Bluebeam.
Ah, yes, Project Bluebeam.
You know, that theory about a staged alien invasion orchestrated by...
Oh, the usual suspects, NASA, the UN.
Yeah, they're trying to establish a new world order, according to this theory.
Control through fear. Pretty classic.
But here's the thing that makes this one so interesting to me.
Lay it on me.
It's built around technology that actually exists, like drones.
Yeah, drones have gotten incredibly sophisticated.
I mean, think about it. Drones can fly with amazing precision, carry heavy loads.
They can even project high-definition images.
Remember that scene in Spider-Man? Far From Home?
Oh, yeah, with Mysterio.
Those illusions he creates? That's not totally out of the realm of possibility with drone tech today.
Right, and that's what makes this theory so creepy.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, are some of these UFO sightings we hear about actually just...
Well, drones. It's possible.
I mean, I'm not saying all of them, but...
But it's a factor we can't ignore. The capabilities are there.
And then there's the fact that the government's been pretty weird about UFOs lately.
Yeah, more open, but also more vague.
Like, they're admitting some things can't be explained, but they're not giving us any answers.
It's fueling the speculation fire.
So you've got people looking for explanations, and for some, that leads them right to...
Project Bluebeam.
So let's break this theory down.
All right, so it's a 4-stage plan, according to this guy, Serge Monist.
4 stages. Okay, this is getting elaborate.
Stage 1, fabricated earthquakes.
Earthquakes. Wait, what?
Yeah, artificial ones, designed to...
Designed to what? Cause chaos.
Not just chaos, they're supposedly looking to discredit existing religions.
Like, by uncovering artifacts that contradict religious teachings.
That's the idea, paving the way for a new unified faith. A global religion.
Wow, okay, so they're shaking things up to shake up our belief systems.
Literally and figuratively.
And then what? What's stage 2?
Get ready for this one. Massive holographic displays in the sky.
Holograms. Like giant ones.
Giant 3-dimensional images projected globally.
How is that even possible?
Well, Manas claimed they'd use these space-based laser-generating satellites.
Space lasers. Now it sounded like a bad sci-fi movie.
But that's the claim. These satellites would project images onto the sky for everyone to see.
So like a global movie screen. And what are these images of?
Religious figures like Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, all merging into one.
Merging. Like combining into a single being.
Yeah, the idea is to create a universal religious icon.
Wow, this is getting wild. I mean, I'm picturing that scene from Independence Day.
You know, where the alien ship casts a shadow over the cities.
But instead of a ship, it's these religious figures.
Pretty intense imagery, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to think about.
But it does make you wonder about the line between,
between a thought experiment and a genuine belief.
Exactly, and that's important to keep in mind as we delve deeper into this.
All right, so we've got earthquakes and sky holograms. What's next?
This one is maybe the most unsettling telepathic mind control.
Telepathic? Like reading minds?
Not just reading, influencing them, controlling thoughts.
Hold on. How would they even do that?
Monist believed it would involve devices emitting specific frequencies.
Like brainwaves?
Something like that, beamed into people's minds, making them believe...
Believe what?
That their God is speaking to them directly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's getting pretty out there.
So it's not just external manipulation, it's messing with people's minds from the inside.
It's a pretty dark concept.
I mean, telepathic mind control, it sounds like pure science fiction.
But there are some real-world technologies that could be misinterpreted or intentionally used for deception.
Like what?
Well, there's this thing called the radio frequency hearing effect.
What's that?
It uses radio waves to create sounds inside someone's head.
So like hearing voices that aren't really there?
Exactly, and if you combine that with advanced holographic projections, you could...
create some pretty convincing illusions.
Right, so even if we're not at the level of actual mind control...
the potential is there. And that's enough to make people nervous.
Especially when you factor in the psychological impact of fear and uncertainty.
Yeah, people start looking for explanations, and sometimes they latch on to things that might not be...
entirely rational.
So where does all this lead? What's the final stage of this Project Bluebeam?
This is where it all comes together. The grand finale, a simulated alien invasion.
A fake alien invasion.
Complete with supernatural events, maybe even a staged rapture.
Wow, okay, so they're pulling out all the stops.
To induce mass panic, solidify control over the population.
And ultimately establish that new world order.
That's the end game, according to the theory.
So we've got real technology, unexplained phenomena, a lot of paranoia.
It's a potent mix.
But let's be honest, this whole thing sounds pretty far-fetched.
I mean, it's a wild theory, no doubt.
So why would anyone believe this? I mean, it's like something out of a movie.
Well, conspiracy theories often appeal to people who distrust authority.
I get that, but a fake alien invasion.
It's about finding explanations, simple answers, in a world that feels chaotic.
So it's about making sense of things, even if it's a scary explanation.
Often, yes, and it's about feeling like you're in the know, like you've seen through the deception.
Okay, so it's a way to feel in control in a world that feels out of control.
That's a big part of it, but we'll dig into that more later.
But for now, I want to ask our listeners something.
Yeah, good idea.
Have you ever found yourself drawn to explanations that challenge the mainstream narrative?
The ones that make you question everything.
Why? What is it about those alternative viewpoints that resonates with you?
Think about it.
It's something we all need to consider.
Absolutely. It's about those alternative explanations, the ones that make you go, what if?
The ones that challenge the official story.
Yeah, why are we drawn to those?
It's a good question, especially when we're talking about something like Project Bluebeam.
A theory that, let's be honest, requires a pretty big leap of faith.
Exactly. So let's talk about the reality part of it for a minute.
The things we know are actually happening.
We've talked about drones, how advanced they are.
And things like that radio frequency hearing effect.
But what about the more sci-fi elements of the theory?
It's like those space lasers projecting holograms.
Yeah, is there any actual evidence for that kind of technology?
Well, that's where the theory starts to get a little shaky.
Okay, how so?
We do have satellites, obviously, and they can do amazing things.
Communication, imaging.
Navigation, but projecting holographic images on a global scale.
That seems like a stretch.
It is. We're nowhere near that level of technology.
And honestly, the physics of using lasers like that over such vast distances?
It's incredibly complex, not really feasible with what we know now.
So it sounds like people who believe in Project Bluebeam are taking a few real things.
Like drones, sound manipulation research.
And they're building this elaborate, almost,
Sinister narrative around them.
yeah, and that's something we see with a lot of conspiracy theories.
Taking a grain of truth and spinning it into something much bigger.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate again.
All right, hit me.
What about things like Ronald Reagan's speech at the UN?
The one where he talks about a unifying alien threat.
Yeah, a lot of people point to that as evidence for Project Bluebeam.
It's true that speech is often cited by proponents of the theory.
So is there something to it?
Well, it's important to look at the context.
What do you mean?
Reagan was known for his dramatic speeches, his use of rhetoric.
So it's more about the idea of a common enemy uniting humanity?
Exactly. He wasn't saying there was actually a fake alien invasion in the works.
So it's more about the concept itself than evidence of an actual plan.
Right, and that concept has been around for a long time.
In science fiction, thought experiments.
Exactly. It's not a new idea.
But you know, it makes me wonder, if someone already believes in Project Bluebeam,
They're primed to see those unexplained aerial phenomena as,
confirmation,
yeah, even if there are more plausible explanations.
because they're looking for that evidence to fit their narrative.
Oh, that's a danger with any conspiracy theory. It can become a filter,
You see everything through that lens.
and it can be really hard to break out of that.
So critical thinking is more important than ever.
Absolutely. We need to be able to evaluate information objectively
Consider different perspectives.
and be willing to change our minds when presented with new evidence.
Okay, so we've talked about the technology, the potential for misinterpretation.
But I think there's a deeper question here.
What's that?
Why would anyone want to believe something like Project Bluebeam?
It's a scary thought. A world being manipulated like that.
It is, and it speaks to something deeper, I think.
Like what?
Well, conspiracy theories often appeal to people who feel disillusioned
Disillusions with what?
with authority, with the way the world works.
People who feel like they've lost control.
Exactly, and Project Bluebeam offers a simple explanation, a way to make sense of things.
Even if it's a disturbing explanation.
Right. It assigns blame, it provides a sense of order in a chaotic world,
And it creates a community of people who believe the same thing.
a sense of belonging, of being in the know.
Okay, I can see how that would be appealing to some people.
Especially in a world that feels increasingly complex and uncertain.
So Project Bluebeam might not have evidence to back it up.
But it taps into something deeper, something about human psychology.
Our need for meaning, for control.
Exactly, and that's important to understand even if we don't agree with the theory itself.
Because it helps us understand why people believe what they believe.
And it reminds us to be critical of our own beliefs as well.
To constantly question. To look for evidence.
And to be open to changing our minds.
That's a powerful message.
And it's one we should all keep in mind no matter what we're trying to understand.
So we're talking about a world where it's harder and harder to know what's real.
Yeah, like how do we even tell the difference anymore?
We touched on deepfakes and AI-generated images before.
That stuff is already messing with us.
But imagine something way more advanced.
So think about holographic projections so real
that they could simulate entire events.
It's mind-blowing.
You could witness something extraordinary.
A UFO, a natural disaster.
Even something supernatural.
And you wouldn't know if it actually happened.
Or if it was all just a technological illusion.
It's a terrifying thought.
It makes you question everything you see and hear.
And that's the point. It undermines our whole understanding of truth.
So what do we do? How do we protect ourselves from being deceived?
It's not about giving in to paranoia.
But it's also not about just blindly accepting everything.
We need to become more discerning, more critical.
Develop what you might call information literacy.
Exactly. Being able to evaluate sources, spot biases, recognize manipulation.
So it's not just about the information itself.
It's about understanding the context, the motivations behind it.
And being aware of our own biases.
Yeah, all have
those preconceived notions that shape how we see things.
So we have to ask ourselves, am I believing this because it's true?
Or because it fits with what I already think.
It's tough though, right?
Yeah. I mean, information is coming at us from all directions.
Social media, news, our friends and family.
It's overwhelming.
It is. But we can't just give up.
What do you suggest? How do we even start to filter through all this noise?
Well, first, be deliberate about how you consume information.
Don't just passively scroll through your feeds.
Right. Actively seek out diverse perspectives.
Don't just stay in your echo chamber.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
You mentioned diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
Does that mean engaging with sources we might disagree with?
Absolutely. It's crucial for developing critical thinking skills.
So it's not about agreeing with everything.
It's about understanding the arguments, spotting the flaws in logic.
And then forming your own informed conclusions.
Based on evidence and reason.
Okay, so critical thinking is key.
It's the best defense against manipulation.
But what about the technology itself?
All these advancements that are making it harder to tell what's real.
Is there anything we can do to keep up, to spot a fake when we see one?
Well, it's not about becoming a tech expert overnight.
But having a basic understanding of how these technologies work?
Their capabilities and limitations.
So the more we know about deepfakes, AI, holograms,
the better we'll be at recognizing the signs of fakery.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely, and it's a constant learning process.
Because technology is always evolving.
And we need to evolve with it.
So when we think about Project Bluebeam,
whether we believe it or not,
it highlights these bigger issues.
About trust, information, the nature of reality in a tech-driven world.
It's a cautionary tale, even if it's not a literal plan.
It forces us to confront these uncomfortable questions.
About how easily we can be manipulated.
And the importance of being vigilant, informed citizens.
So, what's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
I'd say this. Be skeptical, be discerning, and never stop questioning.
Don't just accept the narrative, no matter how convincing it seems.
Dig deeper. Look for evidence. Challenge your own assumptions.
Because the truth is out there.
But it's up to each of us to find it.
To sift through the noise and the illusions and get to the heart of the matter.
And that's what we try to do here on The Deep Dive. To explore those complex questions.
To challenge our thinking. To push the boundaries of our understanding.
And to empower our listeners to become more informed, more engaged citizens.
So to everyone listening, stay curious, stay informed, and never underestimate the power of critical thinking.
It's our best tool for navigating this increasingly complex world.
And that's about all the time we have for today's Deep Dive.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
We'll see you next time. And until then, keep your eyes open.
And your mind sharp.